I did.
And and what were your original, I guess, reactions to that film? That was kind of a cult classic in and of itself, but what did you feel like after you saw it?
This is a funny story, and I wouldn't say it if I hadn't already said it to Adam, because he's a dear friend of mine. We're like family. But I went to see it, actually, with another filmmaker friend of mine called Ty West, and we were really excited. We'd heard a lot about it. I saw the teaser trailer. I saw the poster for it and was stoked. And I went and saw it, and how can I say this? I didn't like it. Right after we saw it was actually Adam's birthday, and there was a big party because a lot of the genre guys, all of us, when we found out that we were from other places and that we all lived in Los Angeles close to one another, we sort of had, all of us had movies at the same time. Like Ty had a movie called Triggerman, Adam had Hatchet, I had a movie called The Signal, and we were traveling in different festivals with him, and we kept running into each other in different towns and found out that we all lived like 15 minutes away from each other tops. And so we started hanging out, and it's a really tight-knit group of people. When we got together for Adam's birthday, it was actually the first time that I met him. I had been very open about, like, I don't get Hatchet. I don't know why people are into this. I got put up by a couple of journalists to go up and talk to him about it. And so when I met him, I was like, Adam, it's nice to meet you. You're a great guy. But I want to let you know that I think Hatchet's a big pile of shit. and credit to Adam, he laughed his ass off about it. It was one of those things where it wasn't like my type of movie. And so it made sense that a couple years later he called me and asked me if I wanted to be in it, which was great for me because it allowed me to sort of understand how people that are not into the same movies as me can sort of get enjoyment out of it.
Well, okay, so you didn't like the movie, and now you're in the second one, but I guess what was, which is hilarious in and of itself, but what was the experience like working with Adam Green? I mean, he's supposedly a very visual person, someone who has the entire film mapped out before the actor.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience, actually. Sometimes people can get sort of cynical about working in movies, and I've had the good fortune of doing it for several years now, and sometimes people forget what it was like to have a dream to do that sort of stuff when you're a kid. And I certainly had that feeling as a child that, like, it'd be amazing to make movies. I wish I could do this. And so to get to do it is such a privilege, and it's so exciting. Every time I step on a set, on a sound stage, I feel like I'm a child again, like I'm communing with my 8-year-old self. Lots of times people don't sort of want to recognize that. You get involved. It's a real grind working in film, and there's a lot of broken hearts, and it gets to be something that can be largely a negative experience. But every day on set, Adam was so excited. It's something that hasn't left him, this joy of getting to tell stories that people might watch. And so shooting on set was fairly loose because he instilled this spirit of everybody being just sort of so excited that, wow, we could be pulling cotton, and instead we're making movies, you know, and this is a really great way to spend your time and to make your money.
I got to see the film, I first saw it at Fantastic Fest here in Austin where it debuted, and the cast, or part of the cast was here, and their big thing they were talking about was the amazing support that they were getting for the fact that the film came out unrated. It was going to be theatrically distributed, and then, I guess like 2 weeks later, it kind of all fell flat. It got pulled from theaters the day after and whatnot. But while that sucks on several aspects of the story, it also makes the, forthcoming DVD and Blu-ray release all the more important. So my question is, after the extremely long story that I just told, is there anything extra on the Blu-ray? Anything in terms of like bonus scenes? Is it worse than the unrated? I never tend to restrain Adam from doing anything spectacular with the DVD because he always tends to make them amazing. But what can fans expect this time around?
Well, I haven't seen the DVD yet, but I know that at least in my case, I was in the story was sort of like this pretty significant subplot that just happened into a Hatchet film, and for sake of the film and that it's a slasher movie comedy, we ended up having to cut a lot of that theatrically. And I know that that's all going to be on the DVD, or at least last I heard. But as far as the movie, we were fortunate that what pretty much got out there was what Adam was more or less trying to get out. So there's not too much more because it went out unrated for the 5 people that saw it. But like I was saying to Adam, I think that the best thing that could happen to the movie was that it got pulled, because it getting pulled meant that now people were interested in seeing it, and that it made a statement about whether or not you like Hatchet or whether or not you like any type of movie. I think that there's a market, and I think that there's room, a justifiable room for unrated film. And regardless of its content, there's a story for everybody. And in this specific case, we really got boned because we weren't a big-budget movie, because we weren't a studio picture. I mean, all the stuff that happened in Hatchet 2 is nowhere near as crazy as the stuff that happened in Piranha's 3D. But that got out with an R rating and made a boatload of money, and we got screwed. And it's largely, I think, because we're not paying off the MPAA. We're not playing that game that you sort of have to play when you jump through hoops for them. And so getting to come out unrated, which was a real big credit to Dark Sky, put us out for supporting that concept. Getting pulled didn't really hurt us, because no matter what, we didn't have $20 million to spend on advertising. And so we were going to make it maybe 2 weeks theatrically. But now that they pulled us, people are much more interested in seeing what it was.
The coolest thing about this film is the fact that you see blood, you see death, you see this horrific killer with a truly amazing backstory kind of come to life, and you laugh. Instead of screaming, instead of, going home at night and having nightmares over it, it's a fun film that distills laughter rather than screams. What was the atmosphere like on set?
It was really light, because, you could tell that one of Adam's biggest influences is An American Werewolf in London. And no movie had really come out before then that mixed genres the way that one did, where it was scary, but it was also funny. So on this particular set, and I've said before, Adam has a real knack for putting people together. He understands the people that are going to get along. He put a bunch of people together that would become real friends. We had a ton of fun. I mean, it's ridiculous to get to pile in a bunch of genre people on a plane, fly them to New Orleans, and go shoot some stuff, and then hang out and have beers afterwards. Everybody was having a really good time. It was very depressing, actually. When we finished shooting, we were on a huge pontoon boats, and the last day of shooting in New Orleans, we had to get back on that boat, and it's all of us. We're on 2 boats, and it was amazing. Nobody was talking to each other. We were just being really quiet, because it was a sad experience to end shooting with everybody that you were having such a good time working with, and that's not typical of the work experience on a movie.
Also, now, you mentioned that there was a whole bunch of genre stars in the film, and there's some very well-known cult actors, especially in the horror genre. Was there anybody in particular that you were really looking forward to working with when you found out who was going to be in it and that you were actually going to be part of Hatchet 2?
Well, all of them, but there were a couple that really freaked me out. One was Danny, because I didn't know her before we started shooting it, and we're the same age, but I've been watching her for 20 years. So to get to be on set with Danielle Harris was surreal. And then additionally, you've got Tom Holland, who, for me, is really known for his genre work, but as a kid, I wore out my Cloak and Dagger VHS tape, and he wrote that movie. And so after, I think it was like the 3rd time that I was having dinner at his house, and I'm dear friends with him now and with his wife, Kathy, I brought the DVD of Cloak and Dagger, and I was like, you've got to sign this. And he didn't want to sign it. And I was like, come on, Tom, you have to. All he wanted to talk about was Child's Play and Fright Night. And I was like, no. This and Psycho 2 are amazing. And the other big one for me, most people that I know that like horror films that are in their mid-30s like I am, they talk about, as children of the 80s, they talk about Nightmare on Elm Street, which I love, and I'm not trying to take anything away from. But growing up, for me, Friday the 13th was always the series that I was into. I'll never forget seeing Part 7 and seeing Jason, even as a kid, for the first time, be incredibly scary. And that was all Kane. And so working with Kane and hanging out with Kane and getting to know him and getting to be his friend was probably the trippiest part of it.
Any word of Hatchet 3 by chance?
I don't know. I think it's like the last one. I think Adam needs a break and needs to go make a few other things, and then maybe we'll see. If this does well on DVD, then I'm sure that there will be people interested in doing it. But whether or not Adam's involved, I think has entirely to do with Adam. He turned down doing Hatchet 2 for a long time because he needed to do things that he was inspired by and was a little worn out by doing a Hatchet movie because they're not easy to make. If he gets to make another movie and if he gets a break, I'm sure that you'll see another one.
Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate you talking with us.
Thanks, man.